Here we go. We're back with another one. And let me hit our buttons. And we got a guest. We got Jason Riley in the studio. We got Aimee in the studio. And we are back on the If Our Kids Ask podcast. Somebody make sure that we are good to go on the live side. Because we say we're live on this side. Let's make sure we're going. Because I know we've had a few technical issues the past
I will check the Facebook.
couple of weeks. And I am double checking right now as well.
The Facebook?
So why?
I'm checking YouTube.
I'm checking the Facebook.
Okay, says we're live on YouTube. So.
I don't see us on the Facebook, but maybe I'm not checking the right place because I feel like I don't even know where to go to check.
Okay, I think we're good to go. At least we're on the YouTube side of it, so good to go. If you would like, I could send you the link so you have that for your people.
That'd be great.
And
I told Jeremy to watch our podcast last week, and he said all y'all were doing was eating. So we lost him.
Did y'all eat during the podcast?
We did.
I watched your first 2 minutes.
all right,
I missed out.
Aimee, you want to be shifted over one? There you go, right there.
There we go.
All right. Good to go. All right. So today we're talking about, Jason, I want to say welcome to the studio.
Welcome.
It's been a minute since you've been here.
Almost a year. 2 years since I was in the studio.
With your boy?
With my boy. It was October of 2022. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 2023.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
October of 2023.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome
Because
back,
he was
brother.
there. Because it was just how October just happened. Yeah.
All right. So I forgot I don't have Facebook on my phone, so should I download it again?
That's what I'm saying. You don't have to
I
send me
didn't
the
see it.
Facebook link. Yeah.
Where did it share? What
Just
did
give
you?
me the YouTube link.
I sent it to you via text.
Oh no, I was talking about the Facebook.
Wait, what?
It's not on the Facebook.
Yeah, I suppose Restream decided it's not going to send it to Facebook. It's only going to send it to YouTube.
Okay. Really, everybody? Sorry. There it is.
Bum, bum, bum. So,
Sorry.
we're...
All right. So, Aimee, go ahead and let them know what our podcast is about.
Podcast is about things we would want our kids to know in case something ever happens to us. So we just think of things that they could potentially ask and try to answer them right now.
All right. Well, today's episode, we are focusing on breakups. So let's say if your son or daughter, your sons or my son, go through a breakup in the future, what will you do to prepare them? We have a few focus questions that we'll certainly hone in on. But before we do that, I do want to ask... Okay, maybe the pre-question before the real questions. Facebook's taking a minute to even load on my phone, so it'll eventually get there. The pre-questions before the real questions are, is there anything you're going to do to prepare your child for a breakup via teaching or via example or via sharing or some other spiritual practice? So the question is, what will you do to prepare your child for a potential breakup?
I feel like it's so hard to answer that. Like I said, I think the relationship that you have with your parents makes a big difference on how confident you are in letting go of relationships growing up.
So what do you think your relationship with parents? Tell us about your relationship with your parents and then how that equates to your readiness or lack of readiness for breaking up.
I think that if you don't have I don't have a strong, super relationship with my mom or my dad that much. So I think it makes it harder. If you're not finding that kind of security already, then if you find it in somebody else, it makes it hard when that person's gone. think it would make it a lot easier if you put your faith somewhere reliable.
Wait, so you're saying, okay, one, you're saying the idea that you would say you're not that close. You don't have a present one. Or you
I
didn't
don't
have
think
a
I
past?
didn't in the past. Yeah, like I'm a lot closer to my parents now than I had been in the past.
Okay, so then
Yeah.
I maybe color that in. So what would have been a closer relationship looking back? So if we're using your example of so your lack of closeness in a relationship in the past made breakups hard.
I think it's made them like it's made it hard to let go, like, or maybe I don't know. I guess like I know I talked about it just a little while ago, but like I said, it made it hard. Like it made it hard for me to let go of specifically Jeremy. That's how we ended up married, but we weren't together at all this time. So like at some point in time during there, I wasn't attached to anybody else either. So like maybe it made it easier. Maybe being disconnected made me a
So the
disconnected
key is to
person.
not have good a relationship with the parents, and they'll be easier to go through breakups.
I guess that would make it easier because you don't care. I cared about Jeremy though.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so one, non-podcast conversations don't count on the podcast. You can't say earlier when only us three knew about the early conversation.
Yes. Earlier
So-
when I was saying that I wasn't sure what I was going to be able to talk about because I am with the only person that's ever bothered me to break up with.
Okay, so which again to that point, there's that point. But so you're saying that all the other breakups were easy. So what made them easy?
Because I didn't care about them as much as I cared about Jeremy.
Nice.
Okay.
Because I always thought, well, at least it's not Jeremy.
Mm. And do you see, so my tendency when I speak to somebody like you is to think, I wonder how accurate they're actually remembering how difficult certain breakups were. do you feel like your breakups were as accurate as you're thinking you're
I
remembering
do
them now?
feel like at some points in time, like I was going through other things at the same time of like breakups, so it made it harder. But I don't think that like the person specifically is what made it hard. Cause like I was not with Jeremy for long time. I could go months and months and months and not talk to him, or a year not talk to him. But I would still think like, I'd still miss him. But I don't feel like I've ever felt like that's just I've never cared about anybody else like that. And I
Moving
don't think
on.
I ever will.
Jason, what are your thoughts? Is there any preparation you're going to give to your kids on getting ready for a breakup?
Yeah, of course. I'm just not gonna let them date. And then they don't have to worry about it. Just,
That works.
Hey, let's wait until you're 40, and then you don't have to worry about it. You just spend all your time with dad. Now, but I'm not that. Yeah, I understand it's gonna happen, and I mean, truthfully, I think it's how you teach somebody how to treat people in general. I mean, I look back at my life, and I think I really was a jerk when it came to relationships, because I didn't really respect people the way I should have. And so I think it's teaching my kids to respect people. And then it's like when your heart is broken, instead of rejecting it and dealing with it in an angry way, going, hey, this broken heart is a learning lesson, and now I'm going to treat the people with respect, even though I might have a broken heart now. And that's not an easy thing to do, right? Like, it's not like, I think I've said this many a time, but our hearts are squishy. And so they're meant to be broken and squished sometimes, but they come back. And so it's like, I was thinking about this a few weeks ago. It's like, now I'm older, and I remember like the relationships that I felt like at the moment ruined my life. They were only a year long. They were only a year long. I'm 45 years old. Those things that felt like devastated me, but it was only a year, or even sometimes even 6 months. And it was like, why am I allowing that? Now that I'm older, I'm like, why did it allow that 1 year or that one moment try to define my life instead of just growing from it and move forward? So I think that's the trick. I think one of the things I always learned was the idea of realizing at the moment is that person might have been there in your life for just 3 months just to help you grow in some area you didn't realize you needed to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're gone. Don't regret it. Just encourage it and love that it was there.
Right. So the question is, though, like, are you going to be telling them, like, are you telling them that now? I mean, what age are your kids now?
4 and 7.
And so if not now, so answer that first part of the question. But then at what point do you start telling them, oh, yeah, there might be people that come into your life only for a season? Is that when, like, a friend moves away? Is that when?
I mean, I feel like at this point in our lives, I can do that with my son. And I also think it's like a prep, right? Like, because I think about like my mom or, grandparents in general. It's like when they're gone, that relationship, that's gonna be devastating for my kids. So it's like, how can you put yourself in a situation so they feel like they can understand the loss and move on? So that's not the same as a breakup, right? But in the idea, it's still an emotional situation. And so I think with my kids, again, I think it's important to, even with their friendships, help them realize that, hey, this is your friend for now, and hopefully they'll be your friend forever, but it's not always the way that's going to be. And I think, again, if you teach people to treat people with love and respect in their friendships, I believe that will overpower in a relationship. But if you never teach somebody to respect...
Explain that. What do you mean?
I think if you teach people to be loving and respectful to their best friends or their people, and not just use them for what you're using them for, right? But actually make it a 50-50 situation. I feel like if you always teach that and love that, it would hopefully reoccur in a relationship. Though it's harder because in relationships, you definitely have this, give me this thing, you're giving me this thing, and I just want it very badly, right? Like you were saying, it's like I couldn't let go of Jeremy because he was giving me the thing I wanted. And so I think it's so easy for us to not be reciprocal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the reason why relationships end up so badly is that you're so used to taking things for yourself and you're not giving, or it's the opposite, right? Or you're giving everything and that person's not taking it. So at some point, somebody's feeling rifted in the situation. Man, I am knocking over lights. Things are flying all over the place.
Okay, so then, so I guess what I'm hearing, so give love and respect, and hopefully you get love and respect back, and nobody betrays you. Is that the like hope? But the idea is okay. So then, I guess if it's always be love and respect, so it's nothing preemptive. Is it nothing? Is there no preparation? Yeah, like from the time they're whatever 4 months old, you can say love and respect people, and like hey, love and respect, and that's it. Like again, is there anything more?
I think you're right. I mean, I think that you should let them know that there's a chance that people are going to let you down, or people are going to. And again, I think it's interesting because as you raise kids, right, like you and yourself let them down all the time, right? Like all
the time, bro.
Often.
Every day? What's going on in your parenting? Where like what is this frequency?
It's hard whenever, especially like let's say you're in the restroom and you don't want to let your child in the restroom.
This is an everyday thing.
You let them down because to them you're breaking their heart. To them, it's the biggest, most horrible thing in the world that you're in the restroom and you're not letting them in there. So you're letting them down.
Banging on the door.
Screaming, banging on the door.
This happened like that? Like
yeah.
No, yes.
All the time.
Yes, it happens like that. Yeah, they're crying, screaming, banging on the door, and you're just like, give me 5 more seconds and I'll be right out. And then you come out and they're like, oh, thank goodness you're back, but you just betrayed me, you horrible, horrible person. Yeah, no, you let your kids down all the time. Like,
yeah, my 4-year-old today was like, Daddy, I want to play restaurant. And I was like, can you give me a little bit? And she goes, you saw it in her face. She was like, a little bit. And I'm like, I promise you, right when I finish this, we will go play restaurant. She's like, I don't know if I can wait a little bit, Daddy. And I was like, dang, that she already, at this point, I've already let her down enough for her to know that a little bit means that it might be a long time.
Yeah.
And so it was like, dang, like, I have to make sure that I'm one of my word in all those situations.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Like, so that's what I mean by that. Is like, you're going to let down your kids, but it's like.
Especially when you have multiple. Like, it's going to get to a point where it's like, do I put, the baby down? Do I pick up the baby if I'm doing something with Kalel and the baby's crying? Do I, it's going to get to that point. But, yeah, to say like it starts right away, I'd say the letting your child down. But, you can't always do everything.
No. But and again, so it's hard because it's like, how do I preempt them? You know, do I on a daily basis show them? Hey, all right. So imagine one day you're gonna love them with all your heart, and then they're gonna destroy you. And so what I want you to do is I want you to smile, and then I want you to hold it all in and never deal with it. Or I want you, or hey, I want you to deal with it by not. And like, so it's funny because with my son, I had to explain to him if somebody lets you down, which he'll do it often, he'll be like, "You really disappointed me." To just a random 4-year-old or a 6-year-old, another kid, and I'm like, but you don't want to hit them if they disappoint you.
Yeah.
You do not swing at them, and it's like, oh, but my sister stole my ice cream, so she deserves this thing, and it's like, no, that's. So I have to talk about that all the time. So I think maybe it's learning how you can have teachable moments in every situation where you can actually learn that. And I also think it's also openness in your own life, right? It's like how you respond to your wife and how those things I think helps with that, right? Or husband,
I was thinking that too. Like, the hard part about breakups is not the actual like letting go or not having somebody part. I think it's the blame that you put on yourself.
Yep.
Like, oh, it's my fault because I trusted you, which also that kind of turns into like manipulation later too. Like, you don't want your child to internalize every bad thing that happens to them. So like, oh, I got my heart broken because I trusted you, or because I'm the one who was dumb enough to let myself fall for you in the first place and stuff like that. And it's like crazy to live your life like that. But Mom has said stuff to me in the past too, like, well, you're always supposed to have emergency money backup plan just in case you want to take off and get out of something or whatever. And it's like, okay, that's a little intense. You can't just ever fall in love head over heels and trust somebody. Like, it's hard, but when mistakes happen, you do feel like, oh, if I would have just had a backup plan, or if I would have just kept my guard up a little bit more, it's hard to not internalize that. So I think the main part would be trying to teach them that, like, bad things are going to happen. People are going to break your trust. Something's going to happen. And it's not your fault. I'm not going to turn around and say like, oh, I didn't make it to your thing on time and it's your fault because you didn't tell me on time, or you didn't wake me up on time, or, I think it's easier to just reassure your child, like, sometimes things are just not going to work out. All the time,
Not your fault. That's an interesting one. Okay, so make sure I understand. So if I understand what you're saying, it sounds like you're saying there's not really any preparation. You just help them to live, like, give them lessons on life, on disappointments they're facing and friendships that they're facing.
Yeah, well, but you're also talking to two people with young children who haven't had any broken hearts yet. So I feel like if there was somebody that was older that actually went through one of their kids dealing with a breakup, I'd probably be more effective than us who were like, we just don't want them to have a broken heart, right? Like, we just don't want that to happen.
Well, let's say too, like, even just like friendships that end, like, it's the same thing like our friendship breakups. I think there's definitely a way to prepare them. You can let them know, like, hey, no matter what happens, I'll be here for you. Or, you'll always have.
But you won't.
You'll always have your siblings,
especially
or your
if they
family.
listen to this podcast because you're dead.
That's unfortunate. You'll always have these podcasts. Let me correct myself.
As long as YouTube stays in business.
That'd be sad. Watching the show. Wait, what did she say?
But yeah. Because I do know, like, I've had problems in the past, like, with, like, where I stopped being friends with, like, all my friends, or, like, my friends stopped being friends with me or whatever, and it felt hard, like a breakup. And, like, what helped me, I remember, was, like, Mom would, like, sit with me, even though, like, I would tell her, like, leave me alone, go away. I wouldn't just lay here and cry. And she would just, like, sit there and be with me while I was crying. And, they went above and beyond for me. Like, I think even when I was having a hard time, I went to go visit my friend in College Station, so they drove me to College Station to go spend the night and hang out with one of my close friends, and it was like that was great too. So I guess it's like when these breakups happen, have people close to you who are gonna pick you back up again. It's okay to break down.
Okay.
We're supposed to build ourselves up to be torn
All right,
down
I'm tired of y'all. We're just getting to these questions.
You asked us, man.
Yeah, what about you?
What? Somebody has to play the antagonist here.
What would you do?
Huh?
Yeah.
What would you do?
I would tell them don't listen to whatever Aimee and Jason said on that podcast.
Well, you know your dude's gonna be a heartbreaker, looking all handsome. And he's gonna be like, he's gonna be breaking up with all the girls, and so you're gonna have to actually like have somebody talk to the girls.
Yeah, I think it's the opposite.
They're gonna be coming to your house crying.
And you'll be like, I'm
think,
sorry.
So Amy's example of hey, it's not your fault. Mine, it's 100% your fault. You chose her. It's the total responsibility. If you didn't make the decision to give your heart to her, it wouldn't have happened to you. So take accountability, be responsible, and move forward.
Okay, Terry. That's our mom's name.
Okay, I knew that, but I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, what?
My mom is like that.
You see?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know. Again,
I feel like
Well, she's understanding. She's a lot more understanding than that. She's not as like be a man about it, but she is really like, well, I think she's a little bit more strategic than like I am. I'm more touchy-feely. She's more, well, if you had a backup plan, this wouldn't have happened.
that's my joke move. It's
That's
like,
what I think too.
you should have never given your heart anyways. You didn't need to do that to yourself.
Yeah.
That's
That's the internalizing
You
the
know what?
problem thing.
AI is great these days. Just have a relationship with AI. It's fine.
Or it's the don't you just want to live at home for the rest of your life and never have kids and never have anybody to support you when you're old and then so you give them this really dark alternative as far
Feels
as
something
like
I would totally say.
Never.
I've done that to Derek.
that's what
million
Jason would
times.
say to me when I was thinking about, hey, should I pursue Angelita or not? Should I stay with Angelita or not? It was all,
I was like, well, you can always just stay here and just
you just keep roommates for the rest of your life.
be fine. We have a 70-year-old roommate at this point. You'll just be him. It'll be fine.
All right, question number 1 is, what are the signs that a relationship is heading toward a breakup, and how can someone prepare for it emotionally? Kind of talked about this a little bit, but I want to say is, so let's say you begin to observe that the relationship is headed toward a breakup, but maybe your kid doesn't know it yet.
Okay.
Do you intervene and let them know that it seems to be heading toward a breakup? Do you let them hear about it on their own? Do you play the role of prophet when it's really not a prophet? You've just seen it enough times to know that it's going toward a wreck. What do you do in that situation?
Honestly, I would try to prepare them. I would be like, hey, this is about to end. If I was you, I would check out right now.
Wow.
I would check out mentally right now. And then when it happens, pretend you don't care.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
what I'd say.
I love the humor in this move, but the honest answer would probably be, I probably would be not in their business about it, because I feel like almost so much your parent can say. Like my mom was like, yo, your girlfriend's going to break up with you. I'd be like, you don't know what you're talking about, Mom. Like, I love my mom. She's one of my best friends, but in the long run, it's like, it's not my business. You know, unless my kid's calling me every day giving me updates on the dating relationship, then I guess I'm the homie. And then in that situation, I could give the information. But I think that I would be the kind of person that just let it happen, because I feel like you need to learn from your situations in that spot. Now, I would try to be, obviously you're going to be biased in this situation. So like if your kid breaks up with somebody, in your eyes, they're the ones not wrong, right? It's the other person's fault.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how that works, because it's like, it's more than just that, right? It's like, but you're one-sided in this situation. It's like, what are you going to do? Be the person that goes and consoles the other person? Be like, I always thought you were awesome. And then in the movies, there's always the parent that loves that one dude that's like, the person dislikes them with everything, but the parents think that they'd be perfect together. So they're always like inviting them for food or things like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be that dude, you know?
Yeah. I wonder about I imagine there's going to be a sense of asking questions to figure out what they're thinking or feeling about it. Hey, how do you think the relationship is going? Like, how are you guys doing? Because, hey, if I already see the train wreck coming, I'm curious as far as how they see it coming. Like, are they as clueless? Are they clueless about it? Are they aware about it? And then based on how aware they are, let's say if they have no awareness, I was like, yeah. I said, there's a few things that I think I could I almost would want to. I guess you know how in the movies when they go back in time and they don't want to be the butterfly effect. They don't want to like do something wrong that creates and then they blame because that's a weird thing that happens with people go through problems in relationships. They somehow blame the person who's advising them or guiding them or whatever. So I wouldn't want to intervene with the shoulds as far as giving them necessarily. I wouldn't want to contribute to the train wreck where they would look back retroactively and say, "Hey, you did this or you did that," but also, would I wanted to say nothing if I saw it coming? I think there's also like if that question ever came back and went, "Hey, Dad, like when I tell you about things, did you ever see any like red flags that came up?" And then I'd also not want to be that person of going, "Yeah, I saw it," and I wouldn't want my son to be like, "Hey, well, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me that you saw some red flags?"
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's the trick, right? Because it's like, just because things don't seem right at the moment doesn't mean that a relationship can't change to something different. And so there is that part where it's like, you don't know. I mean, how many times have I been in other people's lives that weren't my kids, right? That I knew that their relationship was going to work out, but it was like, as their friend, I wanted to support them and believe in them.
Yeah.
And believe that it was going to work. And so I feel like I'll be the same with my kids, that I'll be like, oh, I want to be here for you. But again, I think that it's hard because it's like,
that is a hard one.
You want them to be happy, and it's like, it's a hard one. But I think at the same time, it's like, I want you to be ready for that. Like, but again, I also think that, what was I say? One of the thought processes I had is like, one of the weirdest ones is when you grow apart. Like where it's like, one person's growing up a different way than the other person. You be dating for a few years, and one person has just matured more than the other one. And, I've been in relationships like that where then it was like, oh, but I don't know what to do because they didn't do anything wrong. They were amazing. It just, I grew to a different place and no longer find the same things that we thought were cool. So then that situation, it's like, I think it's learning. Oh, there you go. So in that situation, I think it's teaching your child that this is you and be okay with who you are. Because sometimes you're going to grow past a relationship. I've been in there. Sometimes the person's going to grow past you and they're going to realize that they were just needing your time. They didn't actually love you or care about you. And that's a hard one, but there's so many different spots. So I think it is learning to respect themselves too, and to know that they're enough. I think that's helpful.
Yeah.
You're making faces over there. What you got?
I'm thinking like signs, like actual signs that your relationship is coming to an end. If I had to think, like how old
What
are
is the sign? This is a good. I like this thought process. I'm listening.
like what is a specific sign that your relationship is coming to an end?
You
With
no longer want to
somebody?
talk to each other on the phone every day.
Yeah, but I feel like it's so hard with like that honeymoon phase. Like,
Yeah.
you never know exactly what's going on there too. And
You cut down your text by half.
and I've said this a million times. If you're in high school, however long you think is a long time is not that long.
Nope.
I feel like you've been talking for 3 months. That's not a long time. It's not. And so signs that your relationship is coming to an end, or heading towards a breakup. I think if you and your partner, it's hard to say. Like I'm trying to think too. Like, is it
a number of fights?
Yeah, is it like are you
now
fighting
we're
every
fighting
single
4
day?
times a day.
And I'm thinking about like, okay, so putting it aside, right? Say it's not my kids. I don't ever want to like encourage a breakup or feel like there is a breakup coming and then my kid ends up staying with the person and then now I look like the bad mother-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
And then, now it's like I was rooting for them to break up. And now what? They don't come around anymore. Now
Now you can't see your own grandkids.
Yep. So
Yeah,
it's
that'd
like,
be bad.
So it's like, ooh, it's hard for me to say also, like, what would I want for them? I would want for them to come up with their own thoughts and ideas, because I don't want to be the person who gets in between something like that and then it comes back and bites me in the butt. But I also, wouldn't want them to actually go through a breakup and then I'm not there for them, or, they don't reach out because they're like, oh, well, mom told me and I didn't listen to her.
That's why dads always win in this situation, because they just don't do anything about it. They're just like, we can go fishing and you can just talk about it. I'm not going to tell you anything because you don't have anything to hold against me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's
I
that.
can see my husband being like
The
that.
client-centered therapy approach, which is kind of like you help ask questions to help lead them to conclusions. And then so like the idea is that you don't ever have to be the person who says the bad thing if you can help ask them questions to lead them to different conclusions, assuming your kid is intuitive enough to be able to grasp different things. If they're not, you're asking them questions and you're like, so how many times did she start a conflict with you this week? And it's like every day. So what do you think that means about the relationship? Oh, yeah, I think we're doing pretty good. Especially we're doing good compared to, our friend John and Maria, who fight 3 times a day. We're only fighting 1 time a day, and like just this idea of like comparing somebody else who's maybe far worse than them and thinking that, the relationship is doing fine.
Yeah.
But I think the frequency of conflict for sure and not being able to resolve conflict is certainly a sign that it's associated with stress. I think I've of all of the friends I've talked to over the years, tell me, Jason, I know you're older than me, so you might have an additional insight on this, which is of all the relationships, friends I've talked about relationships over the years, there's really only been one that I knew that there was so much conflict before and they still got married and they seemed to really mature into something resembling a stellar relationship that's an example. But other than that, I don't know if there's been any. How many would you say you've seen or even heard of?
Probably 2. But and then the trick is that's also because those people took dramatic changes in their lives to become different people during it. But no, I've never seen a lot of people that had a lot of conflict in their relationship and then they stayed together. Because I mean, we learned this like with COVID, right? It was like there was tons of more extra divorces because people were like having to spend all the time with the people. They're like, oh, I don't like this. I don't want to be around you all the time. This is not fun.
Oh, what kept our marriage together was that I went to work every day and I didn't see you all day long.
Yeah, which a lot of people realized.
Yeah,
Tons of people realized. No, I was only this relationship. This is a convenience. And now that we're stuck together, no, I don't want to do this. And I also think that's one of the signs. If somebody's like on your nerves all the time, there's probably something either it's not right or it's you need to work on something on your own end and you're refusing to. Right.
Yeah.
And if you're refusing to, that's your own thing and you're going to break up anyways because you just don't want to change that thing. So it's interesting. But yeah, no, it's a crazy step.
Yeah, I definitely think like arguments and conflict.
Yeah. I think there's another test that I remember going through, which was the idea of breaking up was like more of a relief than like a sadness. It's like,
Sure.
oh, wow, I'm so glad that that's over. Like, thank you. Like that it's over. And I think the sign I remember for me was when a friend's dad told me, he said, hey, like, y'all don't live together. Y'all don't pay bills together. Y'all don't have kids together.
If there's a good time to cut and run, it's right now.
Well, there's that, but he's saying for y'all to have the amount of conflict and problems y'all are having doesn't really even make sense because of all of the problems you're gonna face in life, they're the biggest problems are ahead of you when you're paying bills together, the money problems, the parenting problems, the other situations with different family dynamics, a parent dying, all of these things happening. Like those are ahead of you. And if y'all can't navigate getting along right now without all of these major stressful, problematic things to come, like there's no hope.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, I think it's so easy because, especially in relationships, we easily can, when we're courting somebody, we pretend we're somebody else, right? And so it's like once you're in the relationship, then they're dealing with all the things that you're not that you thought they thought you were, and this vice versa. Like because we've been pretending this whole time, not on purpose. We're just always, when you're dating, right? You're always like showing the best part of you, the best. They're only getting the best part. Me and Derek talked about this many a time when he was dating long distance. It was like they're only seeing you once a week, and so they're only seeing the best of you. So then when you start actually being around each other all the time, then you find yourself in a more hurt situation. And, and again, that's also there is a spot on helping your kids understand about dependence, right? Like you want to be able to, like a lot of people put themselves in toxic relationships because they don't know how to deal with relationships. Maybe because their parents weren't around or they weren't in those situations or their dad was violent. And so they automatically lean towards those things. Not on purpose, not because they're like, oh, I want to go through the same thing my mom went through, but it's because it's the only thing they understand. And so I think as a parent, your job is to go, hey, you don't have to be fully dependent on somebody else. You need to be I always tell people all the time, you need to be the person.
Whenever I hear all the time, I say lies. Okay, go ahead.
I tell people sometimes, if what you really should be doing is becoming the kind of person that you want to date. Being that person. If you can become that person, then you're going to fill in a lot of space. If you expect your person to be more religious than you, more clean than you, more awesome than you, and then they're going to want you, that's not how that works, right? Like you need to be the kind of person that person would want, or the kind of person you want. And so it's like that's an important situation. So I think it's teaching that you don't need to be fully dependent on a relationship. You need to be the best you, and then your relationship will make it. Y'all work together. Like I believe, like with my marriage, it's hopefully a 50-50 thing. There are times where I feel like it isn't, but at the same time, it's like I know I offer things that she doesn't do. Right? Like it's like I want to be there with everything I have, and I hope that I'm that person. And the other part about that is staying that person. Right? Staying a person that wants to be their best. In a relationship, because at some point I've been in the situation where I just given up altogether in a relationship, not because of that person, but because of my life, right? I just kind of gave up as a person, and then I was that person's best friend, and so I was like, if I was your best friend and you asked me if we should stay together, I would tell you to break up with me because I stink right now, and I'm not giving to you, I'm not doing anything that I'm supposed to be doing, and instead I'm just doing this thing. So.
All right, question number 2.
Yep.
Is how do you balance honesty with kindness when breaking up with someone? Should you always give a detailed explanation for ending the relationship?
No.
Nope.
Absolutely not.
100%.
Tell me more.
I don't think, especially with how manipulative people are nowadays, you don't have to give every little reason as to why you're breaking up, because if you're with somebody who really wants to stay with you, they will counter. They will counter every accusation you bring at them, every problem you bring up. They're going to say, well, no, what about this? And no, what about that?
Okay, so then your son comes up and says, okay, so what do I say then, Mom?
Just say, this isn't working out anymore. That's it.
She said, how come?
I don't know your explanation. That's it. Over.
Wow. Like a 2 weeks notice situation, you're just like, you're fired.
2 weeks
or even
notice.
just like,
I don't know why I said 2 weeks notice.
Like, this isn't going to work anymore. You're going to be great for someone else.
Wow.
But, I want to be mature about this. And I just don't want you to be a priority in my life anymore. And that's it.
Son goes, has the conversation. Girlfriend comes back and says, hey, I really want to be able to grow as a person from this breakup. So I would really appreciate the feedback that you have for me, how I could become better from this situation.
When has that ever happened in your life?
Yeah. He's going to get it no matter what he does. So.
Or how about she comes back 6 months later? She goes, hey, like, I know you never really told me the reason we broke up, but I really want, would like the closure from knowing, like, specifically what was it?
Well, if it's at that point in time and he wants to do it, it's like, go for it. Make a
It's always a
list.
trap.
Write it down.
It's a trap.
But-
It's a trap.
Yeah.
They're trying to get back together. That's why they're actually having the conversation.
Okay, what about you?
No trust.
You know, I was thinking about this. It's like, no, I agree. I don't think that you need to give a detailed explanation. But also, I was just thinking about this. Like, there is a thing that we can do. Another training thing is, again, the thing that makes breakouts hard is that you have so many things together, right? Like, if you're intimate or if you're, you know, it's like I broke up with people I had relationships where I never kissed the person, right? And in that situation, it was way easier to break up with them because they just went, well, you're not for me, I'm not for you. Let's move on. You know what I mean? We didn't have any intertwinings, right? We didn't buy a car together. We didn't buy a house together. Like, if you can, again, I think it's learning your own dependence on yourself compared to intertwining. Because the more you intertwine, the harder it is going to be separate. And the harder you're going to come up with more and more excuses on why you shouldn't be together anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But when you haven't really intertwined much and you're just like, no, we're just not having fun together anymore. We're not enjoying this anymore. We should move on. It's way easier to have a conversation like that compared to when you've already had all these things together. And then you're like, so I guess also in the same idea, the shorter the relationship, it's easier to break up, right? Like if you dated somebody for 3 weeks, you're like, especially when like, imagine when you were a kid and you dated somebody, you literally asked them with a little paper and then you just broke up. Like nobody cared. It wasn't emotions. It was literally just the cuter boy or the cuter girl was the one that liked you the next week. And so you switched, right? And so it's like, I think it's that, right? Like it's learning how to feel secure in yourself. But yeah, no, in general, I don't think that you need honestly, all details are going to do is hurt more people's feelings. It's like, I've been in that
So
place.
no details.
I think it's hard because I've been in that situation where I had the best breakup ever, where I had this amazing breakup. And
You broke up with them or they broke up with
they
you?
broke up with me.
And it was the best one ever?
It was awesome.
It was like, of all the breakups that have ever happened in life, yours was
it was great.
yours was the number one.
for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Until I started like a month later, I think I started liking one of her close friends.
Okay.
And then I started saying, oh, well, I don't think I ever loved you. I don't think I ever. And this is something I need to learn in my own heart that happened, that where I was automatically destroying people because I thought that was the only way to move on with my life, was to nuke my previous relationship. So there I am nuking my relationship. And this is my best friend. And now I'm telling him a month later after having a perfect breakup.
Wait, who's the best friend? Your ex?
Yeah. And after having the perfect breakup, I come and nuke it. I'm like, I never loved you. You're terrible. And then I don't realize what I had done for a whole entire year until then somebody did that to me. And I went, oh, so I had to go back and be like, I'm an idiot. I have always loved you. I wouldn't have moved to San Antonio if I didn't love you. I'm sorry that I said any of that, because the problem is my explanation was just trying to deal with my situation. So that's why I say sometimes an explanation can hurt you more than even help you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're saying this thing and it doesn't mean that you 100% agree with it. You're just saying a thing so you can get out of the thing that you're in. And it's like, sometimes you just need to leave, right? There are relationships in our lives. And I think that's another thing teaching my kids. Like, there are relationships that sometimes they're just so toxic, you need to get out of them. And you don't need some crazy excuse. You just need to leave.
Yeah.
You just need to go, this is not a thing for me. And I'm sorry, I care about you lots, but I can't emotionally deal with this.
Yeah. And taking space. Like, you can always just say, like, I'm not going to go and date someone else and jump straight into another relationship with anybody else, but I just need a break from you. And sometimes space, I think, gives you clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Question number 4. We're skipping question number 3.
Sorry.
When, if ever, is it appropriate to remain friends with an ex, and how can you navigate those boundaries?
Never. No, I don't know.
I think, as I said before, I had 2 of my ex-girlfriends at my wedding.
But in the church, it's a little different.
Yeah, no, I understand. But again, it's because of boundaries, right? Like, because I didn't have, but yeah, I don't think I would have had any of my other girlfriends come to my wedding. I don't think they would have been really excited. Again, I think it's the situation, right? Like, if you were best friends and then you just dated for a little bit and then you broke up, and it was Acklebell just realized that you weren't meant to be together, you still be good friends. I believe that. It's never happened in my life. But I've
Okay,
seen,
well then, how many times have you seen it and it's seen it be done well?
I mean, in great movies. I've probably seen it like 4 or 5 times where somebody was like, this isn't a thing.
There's still time.
We're not in a relationship. We're not in a relationship. You know, we're better apart than we are together.
Mm-hmm.
But the hard part is that I
So
realize
to
this.
be clear, so 99% of the times it doesn't work out as being friends, but 5 times in 40, how old are you, 45?
Yeah.
45 years is you've seen it happen 5 times.
So like 1.5%. Yeah.
No.
I mean, but I think it's even like I think about like being married in general. Like it's hard to keep a lot of your friends anyways.
Yeah.
And so it's like, why would you like? It'd be hard to keep one of your best friends that was your ex as a friend in another relationship, because then it's like, but you did care for this person one time. What is it? Like I was just thinking about like my friend Kevin was like, I don't even know when I got married. I don't even know how I would have made time for my wife and Kevin. Like just because I spent so much time with my friend Kevin, like it was like 3 times a week I was at his house hanging out with him doing the stuff. If he didn't pass away before I got married, it would have been a weird thing to learn how to juggle that because he was so cool. And you know, I think I figured out with Derek, right? Like how to juggle hanging out with my friends compared to my wife. But I do think you're right. It does.
I'm right. I haven't
opposite
said
sex.
anything. I'm just asking questions here.
I'm talking to her. Not you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What you got?
What do you think?
No friends? No, you ain't nobody being friends with their girl with their exes.
Yeah, that's what my immediate thought is too.
So
Immediately.
my son says that, I'm gonna slap him in the back of his head and be like, "So, son, if you're listening
That's-
and I'm not here, just know physically I would slap you in the back of your head for even thinking you'd be friends with your ex, or that your current girlfriend or fiance or wife would be friends with one of their exes. I'll slap you just for choosing a person that thinks they
yeah,
could
that
have a
thinks
friend
that that's okay.
with one of their exes."
But
Fair.
that also goes into something that I was thinking earlier in the conversation when you had said something about like the difference between like a breakup and like actually grieving somebody. I think it's actually a very similar experience when you break up with somebody to feel that grief, because you should like once the breakup happens, it should be like they died. It should be like
Amen, sister.
if you see them at a restaurant, you should feel like you're seeing a ghost. Like that's exactly what I think. If you
Being haunted.
if you see one of your exes at a restaurant, you shouldn't be like, "Oh, hey, how are things?" No, you should just seriously feel like, "Oh, wow, that person resembles someone that I used to know. Wow, cool."
And-
That's it.
And when is that?
Don't go over there and talk to them.
When has
don't
that
interact.
introduction ever been a good idea?
Yeah.
Ever? Oh, hey, have you met my ex-boyfriend or girlfriend? No, I have not, and I don't want to.
I've been in
yeah,
a situation where I was at a restaurant and one of my exes came up and like came up to the table that I was sitting at and was like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And I was like, go away. Like I completely ignored him. Like I seriously just pretended he was not there. Because to me, like, bro, you died. Where'd you come from? Like
Aimee, this is the most mature thing you've ever said on our podcast. Pretend like your exes have died.
yeah, that's
And if you see them in public, there's no smiling, there's no joking, there's no reminiscing.
you can look scared because you're seeing a ghost right now. that's about it.
I feel like that'd be a weird thing to teach your kids. So, son, when you decide to lose a relationship, I want you to just pretend that they died. Okay? You didn't murder them, though. I just want you to know that part first. They just died
Just
of natural causes.
allow yourself to grieve them.
Yes. And then if you see them, just pretend they don't exist, like a ghost. You can call Ghostbusters, though. That's possible.
That's yeah,
Yeah, that'd be a
Preach.
weird thing to teach.
just my opinion.
All right, question number 5.
Yep.
What role does social media play after a breakup? Should you unfollow,
Ugh.
block, or maintain connections?
They died. You have to unfollow them.
Ooh, I don't know if I've ever unfollowed all my friends that die. I still follow them.
Good point.
I mean, I'll go back and look at their stuff. I'll be like, oh, that was nice.
You might keep their text messages.
That's
well,
true.
Yeah. I think I lost my phone the last time, and I was like, I don't have any of these text messages. But like Facebook or something like that, I don't think I've ever unfollowed somebody
That's
after
true.
they passed.
I would imagine that somebody
again,
would go
if they were-
deactivate
but
their account.
Here's the problem: if they were sending out messages every day, if their feed was still alive after the dead, I'd probably then unfollow them.
Yeah. It's hot down here.
I'd be like, I'm good. I don't want to know any updates in the afterlife.
They're letting me
please.
know who's coming next.
Have you ever been messaged from somebody who's died's account?
No.
I have.
I have.
Both of you.
Well,
The same ghost.
this person, I don't think knows him, but this person's ex-wife got his account and wanted me to know that her ex-husband had died and about the funeral service.
They weren't together anymore?
Not.
Oh.
But then she proceeded to
Hit on you.
If you're going to be single at my ex-husband's funeral.
If you want, we can go on a date before the funeral. I'm
What are you
available.
doing after the funeral?
Sorry, man. I had to do it.
Not
she
okay.
proceeded to post on his account regularly, to your point about the dead posting. We're like,
Yeah, that's just too
we
weird.
were like, wait, why is she continuing to post on his account?
Well, he shouldn't have stayed friends with her, maybe.
Well, there is that part. So say, like,
the legacy option in Facebook, you could choose who gets access to your account if you die.
yeah. Well, there's that point like with the people like that are like social media stars, and they're still making money off their videos. So like their family will say they passed, their family still posts their stuff regularly, so they can still keep the money. I'm fine with that. But
If
at
like
that
there's
point,
so many like videos you have pre-recorded.
well, no, just reposting the old stuff just so they keep
Oh, okay.
that
okay.
account live. But it's one of those things where it's like, if you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. So you might as well take advantage of the situation. But yeah, there is a point where it's like, if that's not happening, I would definitely be like, nah, I'm good.
Mm.
I don't want updates of your life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts here? Question number 6. What advice would you give someone who feels guilty for initiating a breakup but knows it's the right decision? I'll throw a curveball. Curveball is,
Are you gonna make up a scenario?
I'm not going to make up.
Of course he is.
A lot of these are not, I think
They're all
all of
mine
these have
life
been
stories.
real life. Okay, real life scenario. One person in the relationship knows the breakup was necessary, but his partner, girlfriend, just had a parent die.
Ooh.
Oh.
So the question is, the advice you give to your son or daughter to initiate the breakup or to wait for a time period after the death so that the boyfriend or girlfriend doesn't have to deal with all of these things at once, the loss of the parent plus the loss of the relationship. What is your advice there?
Ooh. I'd say just rip the Band-Aid off.
Mhm.
Just do it all at once.
So you're saying
You can still
treat him like he's dead, and he also
And he also
he also has a dead parent. So like it's
Ugh.
like 2 deaths.
I think it's interesting because it's like, for me, the advice would be, hey, don't feel guilty. You made the right decision. And the truth here is
Wait, to make the decision to break up during
right
the
away.
Sure, because here's the thing, is that if you're emotionally unavailable for the person in general, at this point, you're ready to break up with them, how are you going to be helpful during this loss? Really, all you're going to do is you're going to be pulling out something that's not truthful. You're going to be making extra time for the person. You're going to actually be building a stronger bond because you're there for them during that time.
That's
so you're
what I'm
actually making it
thinking.
worse when you break up with them afterwards because they're like, man, you spent the last month just taking care of me, doling out love and respect and making me chicken noodle soup and doing these things for me. And now you want to break up with me? Oh, yeah, because I just wanted to make sure that I already wanted to break with you, but I just wanted to make sure that you were good. It was like, that just seems more mean. Like, it's like you making me fall in love with you more because you're taking care of me. Because those moments are the moments where relationships are forged. Are the moments where somebody really does give you everything they can. Like, I think about my friendships and those people that took care of me during those loss and those things, those forged moments.
Yeah.
Why would you want to? Don't feel guilty for not forging a moment that you're going to destroy. You're going to make it worse. You know, like, oh, hey, man, because here's the truth. You can still break up with them and then still send them chicken noodle soup and still
That's
do
what I was
things.
thinking too. Like, you can still be nice to them even though you break up with them.
You
Like,
can let them die like a month later.
yeah,
In your reference.
in your scenario.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be like, going over to their house and holding them while they cry. Like, it's like, okay. Because
You've already given
you
up.
don't want to remember those things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to remember being close with an ex when your parent died. Like, that's already a canon moment.
Flip the script. Then your son or daughter's girlfriend, boyfriend comes to you after your spouse has just died and asks you, is now the time to break up with your child? Is it the same answer, or is your answer shift at all?
Punch you in the forehead. Get away from me. Go do what you got to do, but don't come and talk to me about it. My husband just died. Get away.
Yeah.
But in this case, the girlfriend's truly trying to be considerate. Like, she's truly a sweetheart, and she truly wants to do the right thing. She doesn't have a parent or something to talk to about it, so she goes to you. She goes, "Hey, like, I don't want to make this harder for Kalel or Kylo, and I just want to know if now's the right time or if it's a later time."
Oh no, Kylo.
Kylo?
Like
Kylo Ren?
somebody's gonna die at the end of that story. Star Wars joke.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
He's bad guy, dark side.
Yeah, he is.
Just slice people up with lightsabers after they break up with him. So sorry. I'm glad you got that out.
I wouldn't have got it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, that's funny. Well, if you name your child Kylo, you are on the same page as me then.
Yep. I like the name.
It's beautiful. I love it very much.
Yeah.
I had something and I totally lost it.
But yeah, where we were was she comes up to me, she says, "Hey, da 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 da." I'm going to say, do what's best for you.
Mhm.
This whole situation's not about you. Our situation's not about you. If you feel like that's what you got to do, go do what you got to do.
So you wouldn't give her any direction. You wouldn't give her the same advice you just gave to your.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, break up with him.
Yeah, you would. So you were saying you would say, "Hey, I think it's better like if you're saying do I break up with him now or later after the funeral or whatever, then
Just do it now, but you're still
Yeah.
welcome to come. You can sit behind
Yeah.
us at the funeral and, still be there.
yeah,
But you don't have to sit in the same role with us.
yeah." I maybe my take would be I would think I almost don't want my advice on the topic, like almost like would be like no like there's not a right or wrong like I think you've told me this. I don't want to I don't want to have this information now. I don't want to know this information and then later on down the line our son finds out you asked me and then I just held the information from him. So you can do it now. But if you don't, I will be mentioning something because I'm not going to be the parent who has information about my son who doesn't give it to him.
Yeah.
That's when I would finish sending the text message of the audio that person just said and be like, there you go, son. Enjoy. You're now broken up with that person. It was a joke. It didn't really work.
Wait,
I'd be audio recording the conversation, and then I would just send it to my son so then he could deal with the information that he hears.
But what was the punchline of the joke?
I'm a heartless person that would destroy other people's relationships with recordings. It seemed like a good idea at the moment. I'm sorry. I was trying to add some levity to
I'm
the
trying to
situation.
think about like what Jeremy would do in this situation. I feel like Jeremy would be so like, get away from me. I don't care. Whatever you do, I don't care. Go away. And would he be wrong? No, probably not. Because he loves me. His life won't go on without me.
I said mine's the same opposite. I would just say there's no reason to add any more bond. If you feel like you don't want to be bonded to the person, then don't add more to the situation. Like though I understand you want to be there, but if you don't want to be with them, all you're doing is giving them false hope. All you're doing is showing that there's an opportunity that this might stay together. Because maybe they know too, but then you change your heart and you start taking care of them all. They're like, oh, they care about me again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question number 7. How do you handle situations where one person wants to end the relationship but the other doesn't? Let's take, all right, I feel like I already know your takes on one side of it. Now, this is...
Don't look desperate, son.
Yeah, that's that side. It's the person wants to break up with him, but he has convinced her or him, for your daughter, to give them more time and to give them another shot.
Paper, rock, scissors. No, I am a person that believes that every moment has the right time. And
Every
so I feel
moment has the right time.
Is that right?
I don't know. What are you saying?
Well, so like I was thinking
Every
about
moment is time.
Every time is moment.
every moment is a moment in time. So the time of the moment is the moment and the time that you enjoy.
Correct.
No.
These are all facts.
I'm the kind of person that believes that God has a timing for everything.
Yeah.
Like something like a good example is like, my best friend passed away the day before my wedding. There was a reason for that. Like there was the best time for that to happen in my life. Like I knew there was no better time for that to happen in my life. Not that.
Did you know that at that time?
No, I didn't realize. No, I'm in grieving, dying. I'm like crying every moment. But in like 2 weeks later, I'm like, oh wow, I was on a cruise ship with the love of my life, and I still had to grieve and cry, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been, as I didn't have the thing. And so I feel like almost as there times, and this is a problem, right? Because then there's that part of me that's like, well, but you should still defend yourself. Like if somebody wants to break up with you, you should still give it a chance. Like, are they just giving up because they don't want to do it anymore? Like, there is a chance that you should defend yourself a little, but it's hard.
Defend yourself.
Like, you know what I'm saying? They're like, hey, I want to break
You're
up.
wrong.
And you're like, but are you sure that you want to break up?
Mm.
Like, if you just go, okay, cool. And they're like, hey, I want to break up. And you don't have any fight.
You're like, yes.
And that's the way you do all your things. I don't know if that's a good person. I don't know if that's a good. I don't know if that's a good emotional response.
Especially like when you get into marriage and then it's like if your wife comes and says, I want a divorce, are you
and you're like, yeah.
You're immediately like, okay. Instead of like, hey, okay, let's break it down and figure this out. But if you in your like as a person you feel like this was already kind of going a bad way, now she wants to break up, it's I was gonna give it more time, but since she's not, I won't. But it's like you're asking for more time? I don't know. Yeah. I don't see how that would work.
But at the same time, like I am the kind of person that believes that everything like, but I don't think you should just be like, they're like, oh, I think we should break up. And you're like, yeah. And if you always do that with your life, then it's like, what are you really standing up for? So I think you do need to believe in yourself. You do need to be like, hey, we should stay together. But at the same time, I think it's also understanding that if something's toxic, right? Like if something's toxic, then please don't defend yourself to get yourself back in that. And I've done that before where I've got myself, like I got freedom from a toxic thing and was like, oh, but I can't live without it. And so I get it back and I'm like, ooh, this didn't work out the way I expected it, but I got it back. Yay.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I do believe you have to believe in yourself. So you have to be like, yo, I'm pretty awesome. And they're like, yeah, but you're not awesome for me. And it's like, cool, I'd take that, but at least I had some kind of answer. So I think my thing would be like, yeah, it would just be like, yeah, I think I want you to stay up, but I feel like if they just don't want to change, then there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
What'd you say? Let them go? And don't fight for it? Don't beg? Don't be desperate?
I think if you want an explanation, you're entitled to it. But other than that, no.
I have seen an unusual number of people, not even unusual, I think it's a vast majority, like a strong majority, where people have gone through, I think even at one event we went to, it was like 80% of the couples there had broken up at one point and then they got back together. Mm-hmm. So like this idea that even the opposition to what you mentioned earlier about y'all break up, they're dead to me. But like, again, at least at this one event, like 80% of the couples had broken up and then had gotten back together. It almost showed that what.
But 80%
I
of
just realized something
marriages
about
end in divorce.
her conversation.
What?
Didn't you just say? Was this before the podcast or during the podcast that you broke up with Jeremy and then got back with him?
Yeah.
So what happened with your whole "he's dead" thing?
Oh,
Huh? What happened there?
He was the
So
exception.
you're saying you're married?
He's the reason none of my other relationships ever
You're
worked
married
out.
to a zombie? Is what you're telling me? You're a zombie marrier? Ghost lover?
Yes.
Sorry.
So
Yes, definitely.
there is this element of people who've.
If I could have followed my own advice, I probably would have been a better girlfriend
Oh wow.
to everyone else. But I was horrible. I was horrible and I was mean.
Yeah, that's how I think about it too.
Yeah.
Like when I think about like breakups, I think about like I was the problem.
Yeah, I was
Like
definitely
I was
a
so
big problem.
selfish and I was so needy. And again, that's why I think about like now. I'm like I let that thing control my life, the 6-month relationship for years
Mm-hmm.
without realizing it was just a moment. Like I should have, and it was my fault. Like so many times, either I got broken with or I broke up with somebody, and it was like for the dumbest reasons. And I was just being selfish.
Mm.
And I didn't care about their emotions. I didn't care about them. It's like so many times, like if I could go up and apologize to every person I ever broke up with, I would do it. But it would be awkward.
Yeah.
Like I don't want them to remember that I was a jerk either. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But if they wanted to, they're like, hey, I need an apology. I would be fine with it because I stunk.
yeah.
Like, it took me forever to learn how to be somebody that was worth being married to
Yeah.
or was worth being in a relationship with. And it's like,
I
but
think so too.
at the same
for
time,
me.
it's like if you went back and apologized to every single person, that would also be weird.
Yeah, I've told Derek that I'm not apologizing to anybody.
To anybody? What do you mean?
I think we've had the conversation where I tell you that I have a lot of friends that I probably need to apologize to.
Probably need to, or you absolutely need to?
Probably because I'm not going to.
Probably because you're not going to.
Yep.
Is that what the Holy Spirit is telling you inside of you? Or is the Holy Spirit say, please apologize, Aimee? Please. I want you to.
Wow.
Get back down there.
Watch where you're punching there, dude. You got a little dude right there.
The Holy Spirit inside.
Oh.
Him too. He needs to come out.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. Get out of here.
But aside from that, I'm trying to think. My train of thought was somewhere. And now it's
Okay.
gone.
So begging, not begging, having information on the relationship. All right. Let's see. Next one we got. We'll skip 8, 9. Jason already had a perfect breakup. 10.
Mm.
10.
Yeah, we kind of touching on that.
How do you know when it's time to try and reconcile with an ex versus when it's best to move on permanently?
So I did want to. That's what I was gonna say. So like, the reason that I feel like, especially it's not good to continue to stay friends with somebody who is an ex, is because Jeremy and we dated when we were 13 and 14 years old. You know, we were little, and only for like a month or two, but because that was like my first relationship and it was like something that I really cared about, I wanted to stay friends. So we stayed friends all this time, and I think that it caused several problems throughout my relationships, after that. Several. And so that's why I wouldn't be okay with that now. And then 2, if we're thinking about trying to reconcile, I think that there's so many people who believe in the right person, wrong time. So it's like if you're not mature enough or you're not at the right place in your life. When Jeremy and I got married, obviously we got married young. We're still young now, even if we were to get married right now. But we've already been married a while. So it's like when we were first getting married, I was looking up like how to stay together, what like best ways to make your marriage last when you get married young and all these things. And it was like one of the top things they said is the best way to make your marriage last is to get older, is to wait till you're 30. So it was like, I'm looking at all this stuff and I'm like, oh, thinking about it. And I think that's exactly right. So like if you're in your 20s or you're even a teenager, let's say you're 15 to 29 and you're in a relationship, if it's the wrong relationship, I think you should definitely give things time. Give things so much time. I feel like I'm still so super young right now and I'm already married and like I'm super happy with my life and with my husband, with my kids. But if I wasn't, I don't see any problem with waiting to see what's going to happen because I do think it is all timing. Like kind of like how Jason said too. Like I think if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. If it's meant to be, it's going to happen. If it's not, then the person that you want is going to just marry somebody else, and and that's not meant for you, and there's no problem with waiting. Even wait to get married. You can get engaged, wait as long as you want to get married. So
I think it also matters like where you're at with it. Like if you're the one that broke up with a person and then you grew up and changed and then you realize that you couldn't live without that person, I think then that's a perfect time to at least try, even though they have all the rights in the world to be like, get away, you're dead to me. And that's fair because you're the one that broke their heart.
mm-hmm.
Now, there is that situation where like if you got broken up with because you were a creep and then you're like, oh, but I think we should, and a year later, you're like, we should reconcile. It's like, dog, she didn't want to be
no.
with you anyways. Like,
Mhm.
there is a point where you have to realize that somebody just doesn't want to get back with you. Now, I've been in situations where I really thought that I was supposed to get back with somebody, and then obvious things happened where it was like, oh, wow, that person's not the person I thought they were. I thought they had totally changed to become a different person, was falling in love with that person, and then realized it was all a lie. And I was like, wow, I'm glad I waited a year to figure this out. Because if I didn't, I would have just given my heart to get broken again.
Yeah.
But there are those, I said, that was an opportunity where it was like, I didn't think I would ever get back with that person. And then it was like, oh, look, they're becoming somebody cool. And maybe this is a thing. It didn't work out. But I've seen other times where it had in other people's relationships where it's like, oh, this person grew up and became, like I always laugh when my wife would explain that when she first met me, there was no way she was going to marry me because of the person I was, the kind of person I was. But then when I became the man that I came, even though at this point I was like 32, but when I matured a little, then she was like, yo, this guy's cool. And so, if we would have dated when I first met her and then been like broken up, and then it was like, at that point, if I'm like, hey, this might be a thing, it's worth it, then I think I try. But again, I also think it's understanding where you stand in the situation. Again, if you were broken up with because of issues that you just didn't fix, there's no reason to try to reconcile that. So.
Yeah. You, Derek?
Yeah.
What do we got?
Because you're always perfect.
How do you know when it's time to try and reconcile with an ex, when it's time best to move on permanently? So I guess the question maybe is two versions of it. One version of it is when you are trying to get back together versus, hey, you just want to make sure that you show an element of respect to them to give them any closure. I think so. If I was talking to my son and he, let's say we had the conversation before, he let me know he's gonna go break up with his girlfriend, and then I ask him how he's feeling about it, and he goes through with it. He's like, man, like it seemed like it really tore her up. She was heartbroken, and right. My advice, I think, would be very similar to what you said, but on the reverse of like they're dead to me, or not so much dead, but like, hey, like your caring heart is gonna want to be the person who builds her up and reassures her and makes sure she's okay. This is going to be one of those times where you won't play that role, where she's going to feel the breakup, she's going to feel the distance, and she's going to feel your absence. Let her have that time independent of you so that she can have that wound closed up. And later on, if you want to go back and show a sense of kindness or let her know, like how, like to show let's say appreciation for whatever, navigating the breakup with maturity and like going through that, and and you knew it was difficult. I think that it can be maybe I'll say the principle of, if the relationship was 6 months, maybe it's 3 to 4 times that length. So maybe that's a year and a half later. Maybe it's 2 years later. And being able to go back, hey, I just wanted to check in and say, I know last time we talked, it was during a breakup and you were upset, but I just wanted to let you know, like, I think that time in my life was important to me, and I think you are going to be such a blessing to somebody. And so again, it's hard for me to even say that, but I can feel how that also is like could be resetting the clock almost with them. So I find myself, as I'm speaking it, to doubting if I think that's actually useful as I think it is. So now I'm doubting it.
Well,
and I maybe it's more of, hey, let them know that that's an option, but maybe it's more, hey, they're dead to you, and the best thing you can do to help them move on and stay moved on is allow them.
I was also thinking, like, you could do like snail mail and send them like a letter.
That's so romantic, though.
That is super romantic. Or you can put it in a bottle.
with a cologne.
So they think of you when they open it?
Or maybe like a flower that gets sent that has a note that says like,
I hope your life's
flower.
going well without me.
like,
Mine's great.
Oh, then
I sent this out
the
6
current
months ago
boyfriend is
when
gonna be
we
like,
broke
hey,
up.
why did you send my girlfriend a flower? And
well,
a
you
love
could
note?
write on there like, I sent this out 6 months ago. When we broke up, I just wanted to let you know you took it like a champ, buddy.
buddy, bro. You took it like a chance, bro.
Yep.
All right, closing words, last thoughts. Do you have a parable you want to give? Oh, when we close up our pod, we do it a parable for our kids with a
Or
lesson
story.
of the past week, a story, something that happened with them the past week, and kind of sharing the lesson after the parable from this
Yeah.
past week. You got one?
Yeah.
All right, you go first.
Okay.
This
So
is straight to camera, so she'll be looking at her camera. If you're going, you'll be looking at yours, and I'll be looking at mine when I
Yeah.
go.
So this past week, so we have actually been having Jeremy home this past week because it was Thanksgiving, and that's, the time for him to be home from school. So Khalil's actually been really behaving a lot better. I did want to say, last night I had a problem with Khalil, with you. You are getting so used to having your family all close together, which, like me, your dad, your grandpa, your grandma, all of us all in one place, and you're free to roam around the house and you're welcome to do whatever you want. But when it comes time for bed, you're having a really hard time getting into the routine and making sure that you want to go to sleep. So last night, you went to Grandma's room, and when you were trying to knock on Grandma's door, Grandma was asleep, so she didn't answer the door for you. So you started screaming and crying and freaking out because she wasn't letting you in. And I went to go get you, and I picked you up, and I'm holding you, and you're kicking and screaming, and then your dad's getting you, and you're kicking and screaming. And it's hard for me to see you like that and see you get upset because of things like that. But it's warms my heart that you feel so close to your grandma, so close to all of us, that when you're in this situation, that she's not immediately coming to you, it breaks your heart. Like, seeing that you're even able to have that ability warms my heart, that you're not neglected, that you're not left out in the dust, that when my mom is awake, she's never not stopping what she's doing to pick you up, that you felt that her just not answering the door in the first 5 seconds of you knocking was the worst thing that could have happened, because you are so loved and you are so cared for, that was in fact the worst thing to ever happen to you. So when I think about those things, I think about how much we do spoil you and how much we're able to do those things and how blessed we are to even just be able to do those things. And yes, you were kicking and screaming and crying and it was making me frustrated, but I'd have to constantly find the silver lining in the situation and understand that you even being able to do that and you doing that shows me just how much we have poured into you and how lucky we are to get to enjoy you and how lucky you are that I don't neglect you. And that's it.
Amen. All right. I'll go up next. Okay, so then, Corzin, I want to share with you about when your mom and I were boyfriend and girlfriend, and we would go on dates. We would go on double dates and plan things for the weekend. And one of the times we went out with this couple, as a black couple, and we actually went country dancing. Which we went to a country dancing place, and I wasn't aware enough even at that time to realize, hey, we're going to it was a country dance place out in the country, away from all of the city of San Antonio, so very much on the outskirts. And when we went, pretty much there was all white people, and then it was me and your mom, and then it was this black couple. And I think there was I didn't catch it until probably a couple of 2 or 3 years later, how there was a sense of uncomfortability that your mom feels more, and that even that couple felt during that time period. And I had to go back and mention that to that couple that we were with, and just sharing that, hey, I don't think I was really considerate of how this environment would make you feel as a black couple among all these white people at this country dance spot. So I mentioned that because I think later on I learned a little bit more about culture, and specifically the black culture, and people, when they're not the dominant race in the room, how they can look for somebody who looks like them. So I wanted you to understand that and know that you can actually bring a lot of people this reassurance when you're in a room, maybe that is predominantly one race. Let's say it's a lot of white people, but there's another Hispanic person, another black person, and you being 75% Hispanic and whatever 25% black. I think you can relate and connect. And some of my friends, especially my friend Kyle, he does a great job with finding another black person and then having some inside conversation or joke with them. And I think it's such a great tool to use of raising your awareness I didn't have, even into my 30s, that I hope you have, and that you're able to bring people who feel uncomfortable to a source of comfort by acknowledging them and just having a little insight, whether it's a fist bump or saying, hey, it's good to see somebody who sees. I don't even know what the joke could be, but it's the idea of making a bridge to somebody who might be uncomfortable in the situation that they're in. But I hope you're able to do that in a special and powerful way to build connections like that.
Man, this is hard. Let's see if I can figure this out. I think about do I do separately or do I try to do both at the same time when you have two kids?
But you could just speak to one kid.
Well, I think that with both of them, I mean, I think this weekend we did spend time with the family, Boston and Peyton. We got to hang out with Grandma, and I love how much y'all love your grandmother. To me, that's always been an important thing because I grew up thinking that she was going to leave, and even talking to you about it this week about how I thought she was going to die when I 20 years ago, and now she's still alive. And then y'all love her so much, and that somehow God has blessed us with the opportunity for you to grow up with your grandma is one of the coolest things. But I appreciate that you show that kind of love to her, and you don't even know how much that brings life to her. And I hope that you keep that. I hope that as you grow, that you find other opportunities to show people that you love them, and don't be afraid to do that, because time moves so fast, and you regret not showing that person that you cared about them. It was there are times now when I see y'all hang out with her, I go, man, I really wish I'd had more fun times with my mom. And I mean, I still get to, right? But it's I remember as a teenager, it was my determination is once a week I would go on a date with my mom. I would go out to a restaurant. I would do something with my mom. and that was awesome. But I didn't keep doing it after I grew up, after I left the house, right? Like I didn't make time for it. But I hope that you remember to remind me that you care about them, that you don't forget about that you stay that way as you grow.
All right, everybody. Well, we want to say thank you for joining us on the podcast today, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.